It's a brisk February morning in 1975. Picture an ordinary train, a colossal 316-foot behemoth weighing around 151 tons, constructed from 1938 tube stock with a robust body-on-frame design. Engineered to navigate the unique constraints of the Northern City Line, this train was built with a generous 16-foot loading gauge, 4 feet more than the standard deep-level tube lines, allowing it to accommodate mainline stock. Yet on that fateful day, this marvel of engineering hurtled toward its terminus at a speed that defied every safety protocol. In those electrifying first moments, every heartbeat is magnified. Every fraction of a second teeters between routine operation and catastrophic disaster. Every train driver understands that approaching a terminus is far more than a routine maneuver. It is the culmination of years of training, precision, and an unwavering commitment to safety. Picture the journey along the familiar route between Drayton Park and Moorgate. On that day, Motorman Newson had already completed hundreds of trips along this very track. His hands, molded by experience, were intimately familiar with the subtle pressure of the Westinghouse brake system and the precise calibration of the electro-pneumatic brakes, a system designed for controlled deceleration. And yet, as the train advanced through the labyrinth of subterranean tunnels, something shifted in the air. Newson's usually deliberate, cautious driving began to edge into an uncharacteristic aggressiveness that would soon spell disaster. As the train pressed forward, the environment around it underwent a transformation. The dim glow of the platform lights spilled into the tunnel, revealing a sand drag piled methodically to a steady 2 feet above rail level, a final safeguard against overshooting the platform. Beyond this, a defunct hydraulic buffer stop and a solitary red signal marked the limit of safe passage. In that charged moment, as the train's speed climbed to an estimated 35 to 40 miles per hour, approximately 56-64 kilometers per hour, these physical barriers could only do so much. The numbers here are as unforgiving as the physics at work. A vehicle built for precision and control now barreling forward with a momentum that threatened to overwhelm every engineered safeguard. Then came the collision, the moment that shattered every expectation. In an instant that seems to stretch time itself, the front cab of the train collided with the sand drag. The impact sent a violent shockwave rippling down its entire 316-foot length. Picture metal crumpling like paper under relentless force. The first carriage, originally 52 feet in length, was compressed to a mere 20 feet, a staggering 61.5% reduction in structural integrity. Sparks flew, dust filled the air, and the deafening clamor of screeching metal was punctuated by gasps from witnesses. In that confined, echoing tunnel, the routine deceleration transformed into a ferocious, almost unimaginable impact. As the chaos of the collision unfolded, the very energy of the train, its momentum, once harnessed by careful braking, transferred directly into the lives of its passengers. In those heart-stopping seconds, the sound of metal meeting metal merged with the cries of disbelief. Every gauge, every dial, every meticulously maintained control was rendered impotent by a moment of pure, unbridled force. It is in these fragments of time that technology and human error converge, creating a scenario where even the most advanced safety measures are no match for a single lapse. Within minutes, the underground was transformed into a maelstrom of panic and urgency. At exactly 8:48 a.m., the first emergency call pierced the tense silence. In a matter of 6 critical minutes, London ambulance service units mobilized and arrived by 8:54 a.m., followed closely by the London Fire Brigade at approximately 8:57 a.m. These rapid response times, measured in mere minutes, underscore the severity of the incident. The platform, once a passage for daily commuters, was now shrouded in a dense haze of dust and debris. Desperate shouts, the clatter of rescue tools, and the determined voices of emergency personnel filled the space as they labored to free trapped passengers from the twisted wreckage. Amid the chaos, acts of courage emerged like beacons of hope. Firefighters hacked through mangled metal to create pathways for evacuation. A local doctor, undeterred by the pandemonium, secured much-needed morphine from a nearby pharmacy and ventured into the danger zone to administer aid. In those moments, the stark contrast between human vulnerability and resilience was laid bare, a reminder that even in the darkest hours, acts of bravery can illuminate the path to recovery. As investigators later combed through every dented panel and fractured bolt, the technical data painted an inescapable picture. Every safety mechanism, from the intricately engineered Westinghouse brakes, which required the driver to lap the control to maintain sufficient air pressure, to the dead man's device designed to automatically engage emergency brakes if control was lost, was operating within its design parameters. There was no mechanical defect, no failure in the signaling systems. The objective data pointed to a singular, unsettling truth. Human error had prevailed. Newson, the experienced motorman, was thrust into the center of an inquiry that meticulously scrutinized every aspect of that final minute. His record, marred by 2 platform overshoots in the week preceding the disaster, raised uncomfortable questions about the toll of relentless routine and mounting pressure. Autopsy reports ruled out a heart attack, stroke, or intoxication severe enough to impair his faculties. Notably, his blood alcohol level was measured at 80 milligrams per 100 milliliters, a figure that some experts later argued could be partly attributed to post-mortem changes rather than actual impairment. Yet the physical evidence, such as the cuts on his hands, suggesting a frantic, almost instinctive attempt to correct his speed, hinted at an internal crisis that culminated in that tragic lapse. Now, let me break the fourth wall for a moment. Imagine yourself in Newson's shoes, faced with the monumental responsibility of controlling a 151-ton machine, where every dial and gauge represents the lives of hundreds. How would you manage the crushing pressure, knowing that even a split-second distraction could unleash forces capable of reducing a 52-foot carriage to a 20-foot wreck? It's a question that lingers long after the technical data is reviewed, a haunting reminder of the fragility at the intersection of human capability and technological design. In the aftermath of the collision, a precise chronology emerged from the chaos. Emergency services worked on a meticulously timed schedule. Ambulances arrived within 6 minutes of the initial call, and fire services within 9. The casualty figures, recorded with unflinching accuracy, revealed 43 fatalities and over 70 injuries of varying severity. Evacuations and rescue operations stretched into the late hours, with the final body being removed by 8:05 p.m. on March 4th and the wreckage cleared only by 5 p.m. on March 5th. These numbers, as stark as they are, serve as an unyielding testament to the rapid escalation from routine operation to unprecedented tragedy. As investigators pored over the data and the remnants of the train, every number told a story. The speed of 35 to 40 miles per hour at impact, the compression of the first carriage by over 60%, and the rapid response times, each metric was a piece of the puzzle. Yet they also underscored a fundamental vulnerability. Even a machine designed with precision and reinforced safety protocols can falter when the human element is compromised. The integration of engineering and human judgment is delicate, and in the case of the Moorgate disaster, a momentary lapse had irreversible consequences. In the wake of this catastrophe, the fallout was measured not only in the tragic loss of life, but also in a seismic shift in rail safety protocols. The disaster compelled engineers and safety experts to re-examine every facet of train operation. The result was the introduction of the Moorgate system, an automated safeguard engineered to engage emergency brakes if a train exceeds its safe speed while approaching a terminus. This innovation, along with advanced train protection and warning systems (TPWS), has since redefined the balance between human control and automated oversight. Today's rail networks are a direct legacy of the lessons learned that morning, a future where technology is leveraged to minimize the risks of human error. But beyond the cold, hard numbers and technical blueprints, the Moorgate disaster remains a deeply human story. It is a narrative of ambition, fallibility, and the relentless drive to improve safety in the face of tragedy. When you reflect on the data, 316 feet of engineered steel, 151 tons of mass, speeds measured in precise miles per hour, and emergency responses tracked down to the minute, you also see the intangible cost. The shattering of routine, the abrupt end of lives, and the enduring impact on the families, colleagues, and communities left behind. I invite you now to consider the duality of this event. On one hand, you have the objective measurements, the engineering parameters, the exact timings, and the statistical record of a disaster. On the other hand, you have the raw, unfiltered human experience, a motorman whose lapse, whether born of distraction, fatigue, or an unfathomable internal crisis, forever altered the course of history. The Moorgate disaster is not simply a case study in rail engineering. It is a powerful narrative that reminds us that behind every piece of technology, behind every safety system, lies the human element, vulnerable, fallible, and in desperate need of support. As I conclude this deep dive, let me leave you with one final thought. In every meticulously maintained system, in every routine journey, there exists the potential for both triumph and disaster. The Moorgate tragedy stands as a stark reminder that every dial, every gauge, and every split-second decision carries the weight of lives. It is a legacy etched in both cold data and raw emotion, a legacy that continues to drive the evolution of safety measures in rail transport today. Thank you for joining me on this journey into one of the darkest chapters of London Underground's history. This is Freak Files, a channel that brings dark history and disaster to life. Stay curious, stay vigilant, and let the lessons of Moorgate guide us toward a future where every detail is scrutinized, every second is valued, and the balance between human insight and technological prowess is never taken for granted.